Welcome to Le Grande Bouffe,
The big feast.
with myself, Cole Smithey, and my co-host, Mike Lacy. As always, we are here to copiously consume international politics and culture through the prism of a single film and a different craft beer. Crazy idea, huh?
Spoiler alert, the 911 operator is voiced by Lena Dunham, actually.
SHOCKTOBER!
Oh, it's Shocktober! Welcome to Shocktober. This is our second annual Shocktober, our only themed of our months thus far. Maybe next year we'll have multiple themes throughout the year in different months, you know? Maybe we can have sort of a spring fling thing.
We kind of did have a spring fling thing.
We had a summer fling. We've been doing suites lately. We've been doing like pairs of films, you know?
Yeah.
We've been pairing them up, doing a little cross-pollination. That's been fun.
Yeah.
But today we're doing, for our beginning episode of Shocktober, a film by Ty West called House of the Devil.
The House of the Devil.
It opens with a title card, which is very loading to the film. It really sort of gives you a bunch of context, which I have thoughts about. But it says that it starts with a thing that says that in the 1970s and 80s, 70% of people believed in the existence of violent satanic cults, and 30% of them believed that the lack of evidence was because of governmental cover-up.
Yeah.
So the satanic panic was a thing that was very real.
Yep.
In that people believed it was real.
Yeah.
People went to jail for accusations of satanically inspired child abuse. There was these
Memphis
teachers.
3.
The Memphis 3, absolutely. And then there's teachers who went to jail for a long time because the students, the second graders, accused them of killing and like eating a baby in front of them. And the evidence, I have to say the evidence is compelling. It was the testimony of a bunch of second graders. So, you know, I mean, what are you going to do? I mean,
what are you going to do?
You know, a whole lack of no missing baby isn't going to stand up to the fact that a bunch of second graders had said that. But there was an obsession in, it's actually a little bit later, I feel like, than the era they're depicting here. What year would you say this movie is supposed to be taking place?
I'm guessing 76.
76, yeah. And it's definitely that era of filmmaking that is being very brilliantly hearkened to in every single camera shot, the way that the lenses work, the film grading that's used, the
focus pulling, the way he uses techniques pulled straight from Wes Craven, straight from who's the Gallo, Dario Argento. There's some Italian stuff going on too. The compositions are just beautiful, and it's a Tarantino thing that he does where he's paying homage to these various filmmakers and creating a film in that style that never existed. So it's a nostalgia for something that never was. But this is it. He fills the chapter with this movie.
So it's a smoshing together of a few things. There's certainly your Halloweens, right?
Yep.
But also
there's also The Exorcist.
It's a Halloween and The Exorcist, and it's a merging of them that never quite existed.
It has got the Rosemary's Baby stuff in there.
It has the acting chops of an exorcist, but with the sort of simplistic.
Don't say sort of anymore.
Okay, all right. It got the acting chops of The Exorcist, but it has the teen sort of exploitation element of it's so easy to do, that exploitation element of was going to say the Friday the 13th films, right?
Well, those shots that we're watching right now remind me of Mute Witness when she's in the long hallway and the way they shoot down the long hallway. It's just beautifully crafted. Greta Gerwig is in her mid mumblecore stage.
Yeah, it's 2009. Yeah, this actually came out earlier than I thought it did. I thought this came out maybe 3 years ago, but it was a while ago.
Yeah,
and she was definitely this in the middle of her Swanberg and what's the name of the brothers who had the internet. If it's
those guys.
In any case. She is a bit of the
she's the best friend.
She's the best friend, and she's kind of dressed, and her hair is like what would normally be the sort of like, I feel like I'm in trouble for saying this, but like the slutty best friend, like that doesn't really come up, but she is that archetype.
She eats her pepperoni pizza in a very provocative way.
Well,
I really feel like I could have watched her eat pizza for another 15 minutes. I know it's a little strange and. I understand.
So what is this? Let's get into the synopsis real quick and then jump into what we're drinking. But the synopsis is basically that there is a sophomore in college who
somewhere in the Midwest,
and she wants to move out because she's got a roommate that's hooking up with guys. I think that's the setup. She needs $300 to get her first month's rent, and that is a very good device, I feel, talking about what the rent is to place us in time and in what our financial stakes are, because she is offered very quickly $400. Well, at first $100, but eventually $400 to just spend 4 hours babysitting
an old woman. All right. So on that note, we got to talk about the beer, which Mike chose. It's Young's Double Chocolate Stout.
What's darker than dark? The devil. What's darker than dark chocolate? Double dark chocolate. So
Double Devil 5.2. Not so devilish on the ABV.
Yeah, I think the chocolate really sort of cancels out the alcohol.
Pure luxury. It's a little purpley. Tastes a little purpley to me.
I'm a fan of chocolate beers. I'm not going to drink them more than once a week, or even maybe not that much, but every once in a while they're really interesting, and it's not quite a like children's drink. There's something that's
the alcohol.
It's a bit close. I had an extremely high alcohol content chocolate stout last week.
Established in 1831. This brewery's been around a very long time.
I had I was trying to remember the name of the brand, but I had a 12% alcohol chocolate stout, and I was fucking hammered.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were.
That was intense.
Yeah.
But the chocolate is interesting because it goes a different direction than the hops. It gives you an aftertaste that is a lot more substantive than you'd think. Like, you hear a chocolate beer, you've never had it, and you assume that there's something gimmicky about it. Yeah. But you realize that it's a very legitimate drink, and I feel like it is an interesting, legitimate way to use cocoa is to put it in beer. And so I would say if you've never tried it, give it a shot.
Lovely. John's. Sorry, not John's. Young's. Oh, where did I get Young's? Young. It's Young's Double Chocolate Stout Ale with natural chocolate flavor added. Well, there's lots of flavor going on in this movie. I'm going to sound like a broken record because I just fixate on the look of this movie. Everything about the lighting and the attention to period details is just so cool. All the shots just look great. It's just a great looking movie.
Is it gimmicky to you to make what is so, like, it's one thing to create a period piece, and there's another to recreate the cinematic stylings of another period. There's something that you'd think would come off as gimmicky, and I think there's a touch of it to this, a touch of nostalgia in the way you're making your choices. At the same time, if this came out, this is a question I have. If this came out in 1976, would it have been popular and made money?
I bet it would have. Because it's got the right tone. And what I like about... I watched an interview with Quentin Tarantino and he was talking about The Exorcist and how he had the 4K restoration at his cinema, the New Beverly, for a month. And he went and he saw it a couple times, and he said that he could never make The Exorcist because he would need to shift gears. And what William Friedkin does with that movie is he keeps everything on this. It's a one note. It's a sustained one note movie. And this movie's that way too. Rosemary's Baby's like that too, where the mood is sustained. There's no gear shifting. If you watch something like Inglourious Bastards, Tarantino's making these huge modal shifts with every sequence. But this thing it is of one piece.
Well,
it is all of one tonality, one dramatic tonality.
Yeah, there's a dynamic range, I think, that Tarantino is going for, and it is why he clearly enjoys putting comedy into his pieces so much.
For sure.
And to not exactly juxtapose them with violence, but to have them mix so close to each other, and to have you see people and be with people bantering, and then to have it ratcheted up 1,000 degrees.
Yeah, he plays off of that energy that you get from that, and the energy for a movie like this, or The Exorcist, or Rosemary's Baby, it comes from the character.
There's no, and it's not just to say that Tarantino has funny things and there's no funny things in this. There's not explicit jokes or humor in any of those movies that you mentioned. Mm-hmm. There's things that are maybe amusing, especially Greta Gerwig does things which are funny. There's a point where she's eating candy and she tastes some real terrible candy and she's like reacting to it. And then she goes back for seconds, you know. you just see there's a choice in that character. It's like she loves eating. Like she loves food, you know. Yeah. There's no humorous notes. There's no shift in that dynamic range in The Exorcist or Rosemary's Baby. Or I'm sorry, and there's there's like even that in this is minor compared to in any even Inglourious Bastards, certainly Pulp Fiction, the Hateful Eight.
It's much more personalized because he's putting you in the mindset of these girls, and you really get that 70s vibe about their personalities and their sensibilities about sex. And doesn't one of them say that she's that she talks about her birth control? Is that in this?
I'm not sure. I imagine it'd be Gerwig. In finishing the movie, I wondered if I missed if it was explicitly stated that the main character was a virgin. Mm-hmm. I think that is being telegraphed by her nausea and wanting to move out from her roommate having a boy over. You know, she has a sock on the door.
Yeah. Which is a boy's trick, so it's fun,
it was kind of
funny to see that happening.
I thought originally that she was learning that her boyfriend was cheating on her, and that's why she was moving out.
No.
She seems off-put by this, but I thought that if this were truly a 70s movie, it would have been extremely explicit, and she would be more vilified even for being anti-sex, and her winding up where she does at the end would have been punishment for that. And that
I think
just the 70s movie would do that. Like,
I think he hits it really, not so on the nose that that's all you're thinking about, but I think that he really gets it on the head. I think that what he does is perfect. I think it's an exquisite embodiment of that era of filmmaking and of that sense for the characters, because just like in Rosemary's Baby or in The Exorcist, he spends a lot of time building the characters and getting to know the characters and how the characters relate. Yeah, I love it when they walk out of the pizzeria and he keeps the camera on the little pizza statue guy for no reason, because that's what a filmmaker would do. It's a cheesy thing that an uneducated filmmaker choice would make, but he does it because he likes it.
But am I reading too into it to like try to parse out what that theme is there, that she has some attitude towards sex, and then because that's how all these movies operate, right?
Yeah.
There's very interesting dialectic of both being exploitive and showing teenagers engaging in sex,
that's for slasher movies.
You don't think this counts?
No, this is not a slasher movie.
It gets. I mean, well. To getting a little bit towards the end, she does a lot of slashing herself. Yeah, I mean,
but I'm just saying it's you know, Psycho was the first slasher movie.
I wanted to bring up Psycho in relation to this too,
and also I think what you're getting at, there's a little bit of Roman Polanski's Repulsion,
but also all of these these sleepaway camp, Halloween.
This is not that.
Wait,
though.
what is sleepaway camp? I forget. Is that a newer movie?
That's what is there something called sleepaway?
Yeah,
camp?
there's a thing called sleepaway camp that I'm just
because that's Friday the 13th.
Right. So Friday the 13th is what I meant. Sleepaway Camp, I believe I haven't seen it. I think it's a modern sort of take on that. But right, the Friday the 13th movies where you have these kids that are having sex, and I think that these movies exist in this weird thing where you're seeing these mores about sex reemerge through the violence being done against them, because the slutty people get killed and the chase people wind up.
Yeah, this isn't so much that. Right.
So I'm trying to unpack, like, is this making some statement about her? And like, because doesn't seem to be the case. She seems like I'm trying to wonder, is there a reason why it's her? Is she virginal? Is she not? Is she innocent? Is she a try hard? Is she where is the impetus for her rather than, say, Greta Gerwig to be the one killed? Because she showed up? Maybe?
Well, it's an issue of class. She doesn't have many options when it comes to making money, and she's certainly not going to pass up one, regardless of how ridiculously too good to be true it is. And I think it's interesting where Greta Gerwig is in the role of what would be a traditional Farrah Fawcett role of, the dumb blonde. But she's the one who's smart, and she's the one who advises her, this is too good to be true. Hello.
Right.
And
there's a class thing in
that little bit of reality check there tells you a lot about these characters, and it tells you a lot about their economic view of their actions.
Well, yeah, Greta Gerwig characterizes herself as someone who comes from people with money. She's like, let me tell you about rich people.
Exactly.
That they're idiots.
Exactly.
And she is saying from that place of clarity, as someone who doesn't need to make $100 that night.
That's right.
This is sketchy as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she is really the voice of saying, watch out. She says explicitly, yes, maybe it seems too good to be true because it is.
Yeah, she tells her not to do it. She tells her to leave with her.
So Greta Gerwig, who's, I guess if this movie came out, wouldn't be a big name. This today, she's still not like a big name. But like watching it now, there's something.
No, she's a big name.
Yeah, I mean.
She's A-list. She's A-list now. She's got to be. I think so.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a Jennifer Lawrence, but she's better than by far.
Well, I think her directorial debut is at the New York Film Festival.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. I'll look it up.
She's killed in this movie.
No!
Hey, you should have watched it. And it comes pretty early, and it actually reminds me.
I wouldn't say that it comes early, but I would say that it comes.
It's like 20 minutes in.
It's more than that, I think.
Yeah, maybe 30. But
I think it matches. Oddly, I think coincidentally, I think it pretty much matches about Psycho.
I was going to bring up Psycho. Is it exactly when? Is it?
It seems like it's about exactly at that point.
What's the actress in Psycho? It's not Eva Marie Saint. It's
Janet Leigh.
Janet Leigh. Yeah. Uh-huh. Right. I would bet.
What am I looking up?
When Janet Leigh gets killed in Psycho?
No. There was something else before that.
Golly gee. I don't know, man.
Too much beer.
We should edit.
We don't edit.
calls on the phone, and she gets the voice of Tom Noonan. Do you know this actor?
Yeah, of course I know Tom Noonan. He's a great
amazing.
character actor.
Have you...
And don't get me started on Mary Warnock. We're going to talk about her too.
Tom Noonan, who I've seen in a million things, never really bothered to know his name, but knew him from all kinds of shit. He's
also quite a political activist.
Really? I've become aware and appreciating him all the more because have you seen Anomalisa?
Yes.
He is the voice of everyone else in Anomalisa, and he's spectacular in it. And so when I heard him on the phone, it was such a trippy experience because I'd watched that recently. And if you haven't seen Anomalisa, go see it. I won't say anything more. It's not really a spoiler to say exactly what it is, but I think you should go to the movie as blind as possible.
Well, Mr. Tom Noonan has 82 credits on IMDb, so he is a prolific actor.
I was having a conversation about this because we're talking about character actors at my job, and someone said, they're like, I don't know his name, but he's in a lot of stuff, and he kind of looks like an older, like more distinguished Steve Zahn. Do you have any idea?
Who you're talking about?
Yeah.
How could I?
Yeah. An older Steve Zahn.
Tell me.
I looked up Steve Zahn.
Yeah,
you know Steve Zahn.
Very well, yeah.
And I figured it out just from that.
Oh, yeah?
One guess.
Well, let's hear it.
Shea Wiggum. Or Wygum or something like that. Look him up.
Shea Wiggum. S-H-E-A.
S-H-E-A. I'm like the...
Oh, Wingham.
Wingham, yeah.
Or Wiggum. Shea Wiggum.
You recognize this guy? He's in Boardwalk Empire. He's in lots of things. He's in True Detective.
Oh, yeah.
He's in because there's something about being a character actor, and it's just so fascinating. And speaking of these types of films, historically they are filled with these character actors who you see in a million things, and you need to have a face which is remarkable but not memorable. And you can have 90 IMDb credits.
Yeah.
But Leonardo DiCaprio probably has like 40 credits.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think about people like Blythe Danner. She's a good example. She's got, 85 credits.
I know Robert Duvall had, 15 years ago, had 95 credits. I remember that for some reason.
But I love the suspense. I love the way that he builds the suspense, and I love the way that he tells the story, the dialogue, the writing of the dialogue. Everything is so clear and intentional. There's nothing wasted. There's nothing accidental. And you really like these girls. They're very likable people, and you don't want anything bad to happen to them. You have an investment, and yet you know bad things are going to happen.
So they're coming up to this house. And
scary, I tell you, it's really scary.
The House of the Devil, and it had this opening title card about Satanists. And this is where I will do my disclaimer for Satanism.
Were you a Satanist?
I wish that they would accept me. I've
Shit.
Okay, so there are two modern strains of Satanism. There's Anton LaVey's.
I'm sorry, there's what?
There's two strains of Satanism.
What's the first one?
There's Anton LaVey's.
Anton LaVey's.
Anton LaVey.
Anton LaVey.
He started
Is he French?
The Church of Satanism. No, I think he was American.
Okay.
He was friends with many celebrities. Jane Mansfield was part of his church, and he wrote the Satanic Bible. And
Jane Mansfield?
Yeah.
Mariska Hargitay's mother?
Mariska Hargitay's mother.
Did you know that Mariska Hargitay was in the car when the accident happened with her brother?
I know that, yeah.
Do you know that they survived? They were in the back seat and they both survived, and that the chauffeur and Jane Mansfield both died. And she wasn't really decapitated.
Really?
Yeah, she was. That's a fiction. Yeah.
She
obviously she was not in good
that's
shape.
Some grim shit.
Yeah. 3 years old she was.
Yeah, oh boy. Well, to recover from that, so Satanism is a form of atheistic humanism, as defined by Anton LaVey, and the Church of Satanism is somewhat defunct, and it's been replaced for the most part, by the Satanic Temple, which is a very politically active organization, which uses its status as a religion to sort of use a bully pulpit against conservative Christian religion, and so they'll put up a statue of Baphomet at state capitals next to the Ten Commandments, saying you're either going to respect all religions or you're going to have nothing of the religion. Recently, they've come into the press because they had a woman who identifies
They're
as
so bold.
they're fun. And
I like it. I find it entertaining and interesting.
And I think it's a very powerful political tool to be using your status as a religion.
Sure.
And they always come out whenever InfoWars and Alex Jones or the conservative right is talking about how Satanists are doing this and that, and they're saying, no, Satanists, we're real people. We don't believe in the devil. We are atheists. We don't worship the devil. We understand that Lucifer, the bringer of light, or Prometheus, who tried to educate individuals against the mass blindness that is trying to be pushed upon you by religion, the opiate to create sheeple, and it's far more articulate and interesting than that. But in any case, there's never been a case of what this movie winds up depicting. There's never been a case of actual followers of Satanism
but it does
committing satanic rituals.
It does show up in a lot of movies,
and it did cause quite a lot of panic. A lot of people.
Well, the Loch Ness Monster. Come on, everybody in the 70s thought that there was a fucking big wolf. What's it called? Sorry, Bigfoot. I like Big Wolf better. Big Wolf. This sounds very Native American. Bigfoot.
Bigfoot. They thought there's a Bigfoot.
And Loch Ness Monster.
A lot of child abuse was covered up as the act of these mysterious satanic cults, when in fact it was just good old-fashioned, often very religious people committing atrocities against other people.
And you know, you see things with, for some reason, there's always I don't know why. It's just religion, I guess. They like to sacrifice things. They like to sacrifice people. They like to sacrifice animals. They like to sacrifice babies. There's all this. It always comes down to there's going to be a sacrifice.
Yeah, I have a lot of friends who have much more interesting things to say about the concept of sacrifice. There's a book that I'll recommend by Rene Girard on sacrifice, and it is an incredibly eternal concept in religions. Christianity's interesting because cannibalism and sacrifice are built into it. Mm-hmm. You are eating your God, which is in some ways much more fascinating than sacrificing into a god. You see a lot.
Well, it's really, really fetishistic.
It's a very interesting inversion there, where historically you are taking goats, you're taking animals, and you're offering them up. You're culling a part of what is your wealth and giving it to a higher power. In Christianity, you're eating your God,
which is so psychosexual.
It's nuts. It's really fascinating.
It's really, really psychosexual.
Yeah.
Stuff.
And if you interpret it as, well, that's just what he wanted you to do that. Look into it. It's fine. It's whatever. But then when you see that this is a construct and it endured, and that something about that made it one of the most I guess it's the number one widest religion, maybe number two to Hinduism, but it's
widest religion?
Widest spread. The most
widest.
Proliferant.
I see.
There's something
what you talking about? What is the widest one? That's what I want to know.
I think it would also be Christianity, probably.
It's the widest one.
Yeah.
I'll never forget when I was in high school, I dated this girl, and she big fan of Hunter S. Thompson, and told me she was an atheist. And I just thought that was the most radical thing. Wow, she's an atheist. Took me a long time before I became an atheist, but I got there.
Yeah, there's something so annoying about a young atheist. You know what I mean?
It is very annoying.
It's real.
It's annoying.
It's real annoying. And you feel that they're coming at it with the same type of conviction as someone who's trying to convert you to Jesus Christ as their personal
That wasn't
Savior.
true. That wasn't
That's
true.
good.
That wasn't true in this
that's
case.
good. It's good to hear. Yeah. It's nice to run into someone who's just sort of.
She was also a big fan of John Irving. So as a result,
She sounds cool.
Yeah, she was very cool. I ended up reading a lot of John Irving and Hunter S. Thompson as a result of that.
How old was she?
16.
This girl's cool.
I know.
What happened to her?
She became an editor for some big newspaper.
Well, see, it's the reason why you shouldn't get your kids mixed up in religion. They won't go anywhere in life. So back to the movie. We're watching it here. I pulled it up on my iPhone. And Tom Noonan, who, in a great reveal, is an enormous man. And Ty West really, when you're making films, you can do lots of different angles.
Yeah, the casting is just brilliant.
You can do whatever you want with the height of actors and have it mean whatever you want. Tom Cruise, it's a fact, we know it for real. He's 3'3", and
he only has one tooth in his head.
He's one tooth, but you never know it, because of camera tricks.
That's right.
But Ty West shoots the girls coming in with Tom Noonan, making him look like the tallest man in the fucking world. It's the creepiest.
He looks like an Undertaker. He's got the black suit. He looks like he's the chauffeur for the. What are the funeral cars called?
Oh, now you're making me forget. Isn't it funny when someone's like can't remember something, then you can't? A hearse. A
hearse, right? He looks like the hearse driver.
I'm gonna give a shout out to my uncle Steve Kahn, who's a Cajun musician, and he has a great single back in the day called "You Ain't Never Seen a Hearse with a Luggage Rack." You can't take it with you.
So true, so true. So the thing about Shocktober is that people want to watch a good scary movie. That's what I want. I want to watch a good scary movie. I don't want to watch some crap where it's gonna freak me out because it's really tightly edited and there's lots of blood in every scene. Well, I don't want. I want a good horror movie.
Well, fall is a great season for it, because winter's bleak, but fall is just leading you up to it. It's just a sort of It's the foreplay to the bleakness, and you kind of want to lean into the spooky. No one's watching horror movies in late winter. That's when you're watching upbeat Christmas shit.
That's right. This is it's an important cultural touchstone that we all have to pass through every year. We all have to watch scary movies. And I have to say, I chose this film for a reason, because I think of the 21st century horror movies, ironically, the best one is a retro throwback to the horror films of the 70s.
Well, they all have to respect that heritage, because that's really
you would think, but so many of them don't.
This one not just respects it; it's trying to disguise itself.
It's the conceit of the whole movie. It's the beautiful thing about this movie is that it is an unapologetic love letter to the style of filmmaking, horror filmmaking, that was coming out of people like Tobe Hooper and Roger Corman. Not Roger Corman. What am I saying? Who's the guy who just died?
Wes Craven.
Yeah, and the guy before that. Night of the Living Dead.
Oh, Romero,
yeah, all these guys. So you can see that he's pulling stuff from all of these different great horror filmmakers of the 70s who really knew how to put you on pins and needles and then just scare the shit out of you, like it's going to happen right in the scene that we're watching.
Yeah, do we want to talk about this scene right here? I kind of gave it away, I think, but we'll leave it be. Let's just say check this one out, and just talking to the 21st century ones, we didn't talk about doing this one, so I feel fine bringing it up. What did you think of Drag Me to Hell?
Oh, I love Drag Me to Hell.
Yeah.
Oh, see, now you brought that. Now that you bring up "Drag Me to Hell," I think maybe we got to squeeze that into the
We'll
month.
squeeze that in, yeah.
That was. It's funny that you bring that movie up because that is the only other movie than this one. I mean, that's the one. These two are neck and neck for which one would be the best horror movie of the 21st century. Because Drag Me to Hell is pretty damn amazing.
We've talked about this Shocktober, unlike the last one where we just, sort of jumping all over the place. Doing these 21st century elevated genre is the term that I've been hearing. So, we've been throwing a bunch back and forth, but some notable mentions, I don't know if we'll do it, but like It Follows comes up. It's what they talk about as elevated genre. I know you're not as big a fan as I am, but Green Room is it's a fun movie. I don't say it's great, but it's fun. It's tense. It's more of a that's not a horror movie. It's an escape movie.
Which one?
Green Room. That's a sort of subgenre, an escape movie.
Yeah, I mean, I just think what gets in the way is all of the Nazi stuff. It just gets in the way,
but doesn't that make it so bizarrely, funly relevant?
And also, I just think they're all horrible musicians, which just makes it terrible.
You don't like it's bad punk, yeah.
It's not good music.
Yeah.
It's hard to go along for the ride for people who you think their sense of musicality is wanting, to say the least.
That's funny.
But I mean, you look, Anton Yelchin, I miss him.
Yeah,
I'm really, really, really sad that guy's gone, and so
such a bizarre, tragic,
just awful, just so terrible.
You better hope that fucking Jeep just pays through the nose for him and everyone else.
And it's also kind of creepy about that movie because he gets mangled up in that movie, and he then he got mangled up in real life. So
I mean, if there's one thing that these horror movies, what's funny about these horror movies is they often give a lot of explicit meaning to why people die. There's a thematic undertone.
Yes.
Where in reality, what's truly horrifying about death is these almost seem palliative. It's fucking random.
It's really random.
It's really random. How often does someone die and you go, oh, well, that makes sense in the context of... No. I mean, at most, he smoked and he got lung cancer. That's the most you get.
I got hit by a cab at 66th and Broadway in 2008.
But you were always someone who hated cab drive. No, there's no meaning to that.
And I was just flying in the air, looking up at the sky, thinking, that was it? That was my life? That was it? That was it. Yeah. I had no excuse for my life continuing.
But then you had that cool time with Meryl Streep, and she forgot about her family, and you watched all those movies about when you were a coward, and so that's Albert Brooks.
That's Kate Blanchett. I thought you were being serious. I had.
What? I was talking about the Albert Brooks movie that we watched.
I had a magic 20 minutes with Kate Blanchett.
What?
Yeah, I was back in the day. I used to do all of the press conferences, the roundtable interviews, and I got there early. And I walked in the room, and it was a giant table that you could probably fit 30 people around. And I sit, go plunk myself down, and a minute later, here comes Kate Blanchett into the room, and we're the only people in the room for 20 minutes.
Maybe you've told me this.
Yeah, it was just very super chill, awesome.
Is she as pretty in real life?
She's a very pretty lady.
You know what I have found about a couple actresses I've seen IRL is I would describe them as not photogenic, meaning in real life they're even prettier. I found that about Reese Witherspoon. I was a camera operator on the red carpet. I think I did a very bad job. But
excellent.
I saw her in real life, and she was so much prettier than I've ever seen her. And she looks quite pretty. So I think it's about as high as praise as you could get is that someone who is known for their beauty is not photogenic.
Well, we should mention Mary Warnoff of Andy Warhol superstar fame. Mary Warnoff was one of Andy Warhol's early superstars, And she went on to do movies with Roger Corman. If you've ever seen Rock and Roll High School, she's the
Really?
she's the principal of the high school.
Totally.
And I think she shows up in A Fish Called Wanda. I'm not sure about that, but she shows up in some really cool offbeat movies. And so I just love her in this movie with Tom Noonan and all of the brilliant set design stuff with the stained glass and the Dutch angles, looking down the stairs and overhead angles.
Well, what do you think of the lead? We've not discussed her much. She's so perfectly cast, and
she's invisible is the beautiful thing about her, and it's sad because you're probably not going to see a whole lot of this actress, even though you should. Jocelyn Donahue, she's great because she's just this perfectly mousy. She's heroine.
She's exactly who would be cast in the 70s for it. And it's funny, I looked at photos of her now, and it's almost off-putting seeing her just as a modern person with a modern haircut, because she's so exquisitely
She was in Furious 7, man. Don't you remember her in Furious 7 as the advisor?
As advisor.
Advisor. Now you're gonna have to go back.
Holy fuck! What? Advisor. I don't remember that at all.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we don't really know how how big a part that was. She was in Insidious Chapter 2.
I think an unnamed character is just advisor. Advisor.
Oh, she was advisor. Yeah.
Oh, right. Like in the government, in some sort of drag racing situation. Advisor.
She was in Dead Awake from 2016.
I bet she was in a control room, and she turns and tells someone that they're on the 405.
A young woman must save herself from her friend and her friends from an accident. Shit. Let me start this over. God,
what are you reading? What are you reading right now?
I'm reading the tagline for Dead Awake. A young woman must save herself and her friends from an ancient evil that stalks its victims through the real-life phenomenon of sleep paralysis.
Tight. I'm going to make a critique of this movie. So a thing that you hear about a lot of films is they have third act problems. It's hard to stitch up what your movie is.
Yeah.
I don't think this movie had that problem. I think this movie ended up in a great place. This movie had second act problems, in my opinion. First act, perfect tension leading up to coming to the house, and you are totally spooked to see that she's getting into situations of her head. There's a full, maybe half an act of this film where she's waiting for pizza, she's dancing around. It's fun. It has 80s nostalgia to it. The soundtrack is awesome. There's jack shit happening. We needed another set piece. We needed some characters. She needed to interact with the mother. We're just left wanting.
I agree.
Suspension is not building.
Yeah, I think what I like that scene, and I remember thinking about it differently. Where she's dancing around, it's very a Breakfast Club kind of scene.
It's fun.
It's fun, and it gives you a break in the suspense that you need. But I think you're right. I think that there needed to be a scene with the mother. There needed to be that scene, and I think that's what's missing. I think that I wouldn't take out the scene with her dancing. I just think you need.
It's a short movie.
Other scene.
It's a quick 90, which is true to the genre, but comes off short for a film in this era, and we don't see anything about the mother. Their mother is some sort of Voldemort character. It seems like.
Yeah, there's things that are masked. There's plot holes that are certainly masked over. But I just think that through the sheer energy of the storytelling, that he makes it all work. You're not looking around at the little mistakes and the little flaws because the surge of the narrative really gets you there. And I love the ending. It's got the devil's advocate ending, and which of course this movie did come out after the devil's advocate.
Oh yes. You know what it makes me nostalgic for, and it's kind of mind-blowing, is that all of these films came out, and there were tons of these 70s, 80s teen-based movies where people got sliced up, and certainly there were...
But she's not a teen. I don't want to make it a teen slasher movie.
She could be 19.
Okay, but this is not the teenage slasher movie thing.
Well, then there was a lot of sequels to those, but they were one-offs. I'm so not trying to think like this, but movies come out and they are not from a graphic novel that I've never read or a reboot of a show, and my brain goes, I can't process this. But you had movies for a century coming out that were just a standalone universe. You know, like there's...
Oh, right. Well, this is a millennial issue.
I know.
Because I don't...
But it's also been half my life.
Because I understand your thinking, and... I mean, I was there. I remember when Sam Raimi had the Spider-Man franchise, and it seemed that this was going to be a really great superhero franchise. The first one was good, the second one was amazing, and then the third one was complete shite. And then what's his name? And
then there's been 2 other Spider-Man since then.
But not with the same cast.
There's been 2 more Spider-Mans plus a Broadway show.
Yeah, and to me, and I realize this isn't how real life works, but you know, ideally, if you're going to keep on having these sequels, you got to keep those actors as much as possible in that franchise, like James Bond. You want to have that. You want to milk that whoever the latest James Bond is for as long as you can. And anyway, but now you're right. Hollywood just wants to do a sequel for everything, so it doesn't even matter. I don't even think people care. For me, if there's ever a tell that a movie's going to suck, it's if it's a sequel or a triple, a triple or a quadruple or whatever they call them.
Well, at this point in Hollywood, if you can get people to give you some capital for original idea, it has to have something remarkable about it, because people are not just signing on because it's the 15th version of Avengers. You need to have something pretty guaranteed to be interesting. And, and it's why you're not going to be making that movie in Hollywood. It's why you're going to be scraping together funding.
Well, you know, that's what I wonder about this about Ty West. I'd love to, Ty West, if you're out there and you want to come on the Grande Bouffe, please send me an email. We would love to have you on the show. It's a very smartly budgeted film. It's really a low budget movie. I bet that he made this for under 10 grand.
Yeah, there's very few.
I mean, no, not 10 grand, 10 million. Sorry, 10 million.
Yeah. Oh yes, it was
not 10 grand.
It could be 5.
Yeah, it could be. He really spent the money wisely, but
and that's, I think, why the complaint I had about a lack of another set piece and a bit of an act missing is it could have just been a budget thing. I bet this script was 200 pages and it was cut down to...
I don't know. Maybe this is, you know, exactly what it was. I like the way the tension builds, and it has a great climax. That's the mark of a good movie, if it has a really strong ending. And I think this one does. I love the ending for this movie.
Yeah.
It gives you that unsettled sense that horror is still lurking.
Right. That is the ultimate way to... It's the end question mark, you know? If you can do that visually, like, it is the worst thing to ever literally do, is the end question mark. But if you can do that implicitly, that's a pretty cool move.
Yeah, and that whole thing with hospital beds and being in hospitals, it's just icky. It's just weird and gross and nasty and scary. I don't like hospitals. No one likes hospitals.
No, it's unsettling, and it also puts you in a place of temporariness and recovery, or being there forever. I mean, I guess those are two opposite things, but yeah, hospitals are spooky, man. Yeah,
spooky. The House of the Devil, Ty West.
Fuck hospitals.
Yeah, for as much as you possibly can. Ty West. I'll just mention a little shout out about what he's working on now. He's doing an Exorcist TV series, which had one episode.
Just made a pilot.
Like maybe that's a pilot. And here's another 2017 Outcast one episode. So it looks like he's just doing TV, biding his time doing TV right now.
He's a talent. He's a great talent.
Yeah, he's a great talent. In the Valley of Violence from 2016, it looks like a Western that he did. And then, speaking of sacrifice, he did a movie called The Sacrament in 2013, which is another horror thriller, but I don't know anything about that one. So maybe you guys will watch that and give us some feedback and tell us whether we should put it on the podcast.
Looking at his skill, it's sort of surprising that, sorry for saying sorta, but it is somewhat surprising that he hasn't found himself in a Disney franchise or something. Not that that should be the mark of success, but you see people doing fairly low budget, interesting films and getting swooped up into these big franchises, and then after that being a liberated director who can have their pick of the litter. He writes his own stuff. The Sacrament he wrote and directed. And it's the same story with House of the Devil. Well,
he's a real auteur. This guy is the real McCoy.
Right. You know, Rian Johnson, do you like him? He did Brick and Looper.
I hated Brick. And I hated Looper.
Oh, I liked Looper a lot. I liked Looper a lot more than Brick, actually.
Yeah, I like Looper more than Brick, but it's not a great movie.
It's a pretty good movie, though. It's pretty fun. I'll always go in for a time travel mindfuck thing like that. I'll even enjoy a bit of a Interstellar if we're doing that.
Oh, the worst movie of the 21st century.
Oh, wasn't it voted? Was it voted that?
I voted it that.
You voted the worst movie of the 21st century?
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, I still dig the time dilation thing is fun to me.
It's so terrible.
It's, as someone who loves books, I hated that fucking scene with the bookshelf communicating through time. That was really...
Matthew McConaughey, I don't know if he's on Valium or whatever, but, oh yeah, I've got the helm and I'm taking control. The scene has nothing to do with what's happening. The contrast between his performance and the action that is supposedly taking place is so disconnected. And who's the girl? What's her name? The actress.
The redhead.
No, she got divorced from the rich guy who was a gangster.
Anne Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway.
Yeah.
Anne Hathaway is laughing at her own dialogue. It's so bad. I've never seen somebody break character so obviously as Anne Hathaway in that movie.
I have to watch that again.
Oh my! In the beginning, you'll see it. You can't miss it. And how far can you drive on a flat tire? Don't get me started.
I've talked about. We've talked about
plausibility.
Well, no, the
quality.
The fucking director. This beer dude.
You're drinking the lightweight stuff. I don't know what you're talking about. Nolan.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan, in his defense, has never spoken to a human being before.
Why is that?
I mean, it's not true, but it seems like it. The dude can't write human. He's an amazing cinematographer.
He co-wrote Interstellar with his brother Jonathan, so maybe you're right.
Well, watch Westworld, and you'll realize that he's never met a person either. Those guys are like
inbred. Just say it.
Well, I wanted to call them the Asperger Bros, but I felt like that would be offensive. But also, could literally be true. I don't feel that they understand human interactions. So when they get into all of these things that are like, well, these are robots and they're almost human, but it's like your humans are barely human. How am I supposed to believe your robots are almost human?
All right, so. Shocktober has begun, ladies and gentlemen. Please do the right thing and like and share this video and check out this great movie, The House of the Devil, and give us some feedback about what you think about our choices for Shocktober.
Go look up the cinematographer. This person's great. They understand how to zoom in and rack focus at the same time, which makes them automatically one of the greatest cinematographers in the 20th century. There's
Very skillfully made movie.
There's none of this shitty out of focus, grabbing focus while you're zooming. It is very well crafted.
And please remember to turn your cell phones off when you're walking, driving, riding a bicycle, or watching a movie. And also, if you go to colesmithy.com, please pledge your support, $5 a month, $10 a month, through my Patreon page on colesmithy.com. Thank you.